Should be good now.
Okay. I think we're on, brother.
There we go. And then on yours, just hit share, and then you can share that on your timeline.
Yep, absolutely.
Get past this. Oh, that was the old one. A second. All right, are we live there? Good to go?
We are live.
All right, we'd love to hear that.
What's going on, Ron?
You know, just surviving another day here. Actually, I guess for another week since the last time we talked here in this exciting adventures of COVID. And
so what have you done exciting, man? How are you keeping yourself busy?
You know, I've been cooking my ass off a lot. You know, I've been on the grill. Let's see, I just did some planked halibut the other day with some what I do, a planked halibut, and I made a grilled baba ganoush. Threw all the stuff on I did the eggplant Turkish style. I've been watching all these Instagram videos of all these chefs and stuff. So I saw they throw the eggplant right on the coals and get that thing rolled, bury it up and all that stuff. So it was good. It was good. How about yourself? What have you been up to?
Brother, you won't believe this, man, but you know, don't take, you know, my man card or anything, but I binge watched Tiger King, man. And I'm going to tell you, brother, that we live in the greatest nation on the planet, you know, and I may be a little biased because I am an American. But we have some interesting people that live in this country. And I will tell you, it was, you know, what intrigued me the most about this show was that, you know, there were so many plots and twists and turns and so many interesting, you know, bordering, weird people on the show that it just caught my attention and I watched it, man. So it was, you know, it was, you know, I watched it once. I'm not going to watch it again, but there was a lot of good one-liners in it and everything. And there was a lot of interesting people. So I'm glad I got that out of my system now. But hey, brother, can you believe we have a special guest with us today, man?
You know what? I'm happy we got this special guest. I can't believe it, but I'm glad he's here. Why don't you introduce him?
Yeah, so with us today, ladies and gentlemen, on the Ron and John show today is one of the absolute finest senior enlisted leaders that the Department of Defense has. At my 4 years as a SEAC, I worked with him hand in hand for 4 years. He currently serves, let me see if I get this name right, because I haven't been in the Army or on the military for a couple months. He serves as the National Security Agency, U.S. Cyber Command Senior Enlisted Leader. He is Marine Corps Master Gunnery Sergeant Scott Stalker. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you, John. Good to see you again, always. And Ron, thank you for having me as well. Really looking forward to today. You know, you talked about the Tiger King there. I think that's one of the shows that after you watch it, you've got to have a thorough cleansing, a very long shower after that, because that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Yeah. Hey, so tell us the good news about you and your family. You just recently had some good news. Tell us about it, man.
Yeah, so in the midst of all the chaos going on and, you know, with the coronavirus and states issuing different orders to stay at home and that sort of thing, we had a little bit of nervousness because my wife was pregnant. So we weren't sure how that was going to turn out, but it turned out flawless. And we brought baby Grace into the world 8 days ago now. She's upstairs, possibly even watching this on Facebook, who knows. But she's with us now. And then 16 months ago, we had a baby Olivia. So, you know, I started my family a little late. It's what worked for me and for us, my wife and I. But we're so excited to bring baby Grace into this world, and really appreciate the professionals, the medical professionals that helped us bring her into this world.
That is awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome. What kind of cybersecurity did you have set up and bringing her into the world? Any geo fencing or anything crazy like that to keep all the weird stuff out?
It's funny. It's interesting you say that, because believe it or not, I was concerned with her private, her personally identified information. So we didn't release her exact weight, her exact date, and that sort of thing on anything public, because you never know how that's going to come back. So I know you're being humorous, but in all honesty, it's something that you do have to always consider in today's world, sadly.
Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. I would, obviously, especially someone in your position, you have a lot more. Probably you're a target of opportunity for most, but you try to make it so it's not so opportunistic, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a funny story. I was at John's house about 3 years ago, having a beer, which we like to do on a Friday evening, and he was telling me about these fake social media accounts. And I said, well, I'm really happy I'm not very important, because I don't have to deal with any of that stuff. And so he said, hey, brother, and this was, I had I was a senior enlisted at the time of DIA. So I looked myself up, and sure as shit, I had about 7 or 8 fake accounts. And now it has gotten.
Now let's call it like it was, stalker. All right. He swore up and down that, hey, nobody going to be, impersonating Scott Stalker and everything. And I pulled up 8 fake Scott Stalker pages on Facebook while we were sitting there having a cold beer. So the analog guy had to cue the cyber specialist, man.
Fair. And we deal with it still to this day. I'm not even on Instagram, and my wife showed me a fake Scott Stalker the other day. It's ridiculous. The sad news is those are actually set up and designed to take advantage of widows and the unknowing people. In many cases, they think that they are actually having a relationship with these people, and then they send them money, and they get duped into doing that. So, if it was just someone impersonating me for the sake of it, I don't know what value you get out of that. But the fact that they take advantage of people, that really bothers me.
Yeah. It's and it sucks, and it's going on, all over the place. In fact, I'll just touch on this really quick. Is obviously we're in the Veterans Lending Group, working with a lot of military and veterans, and we just learned, I think last week, there was a military couple. I won't say which branch, but they were doing a simultaneous close where they sell their one home and purchasing another one and moving in at the same time. And the wiring instructions, they got this email of where to send the wire. Apparently, whoever it was knew that they were selling their home, which it is public information, but it got really to them really fast. They thought that's where they were supposed to send the wire, and they ended up sending $250,000 of their home sale, the proceeds from the home they sold, okay, to send it to, put it into the next home. It never got there, and they had sent that to who knows what, and that money is it's just gone now. I guess one of those phishing schemes or something like that. It's horrible.
It is. It really highlights the importance. It's tragic. It really is. It highlights the importance of having practicing smart cyber hygiene. It's really key, because today in the cyber domain, just as in the traditional domains, people are going to try and take advantage of you. And there's things that we can do collectively. Just as you lock your front door, that doesn't mean a burglar can't get in, but it certainly makes it harder. And so we've got to make ourselves harder targets in cyber. And there's a lot of things we can do. Making sure you have a strong antivirus. I would recommend using an American company. I won't endorse a specific one, but I'll tell you that the ones that we recommend would be US based. Things like 2-factor authentication when you can. So I have that set up for my social media accounts, so that if I get locked out, or if I'm accessing it from a different medium, it requires me to enter a code that only I can receive in another way, making it harder to get into. Having really strong passwords, not using those passwords for all the same mediums, what I advise people to do is really to have a sentence, you know, whatever the sentence is, and then change maybe the vowels into characters or numbers or whatever the case may be, just to make it really hard. But a simple sentence like "today is my birthday," and then changing some things up, it's very long. It becomes really hard to crack. And then lastly, you know, making sure your apps and software are up to date. You want to make sure they're consistently up to date. Every day before I go to bed, I'll make sure my applications on my phone are up to date. Those apps that I no longer need, get rid of them. You don't need them on your phone. You don't need them because some of them do have your approval to track you, to understand where you're at. And then if they geolocate you to a certain area, they see you're going there often. Next thing you know, you're getting targeted sales and things like that. And so just being really smart with your cyber hygiene and how you use, whether it's your phone, certainly not clicking on links from people if you don't know who they are. And if you're not sure, call the person, especially if you're going to send money. That is an awful lot of money. If you don't know, then call the person up, say, hey, I just got this email. It looks a little fishy. What do you think? And collectively making yourself a hard target, it's going to have the adversary go somewhere else. And then lastly, what I'd tell you is, you know, with the stimulus checks that many folks are receiving today, we've got to be concerned with those fake sites popping up, whether it's on social media or websites, asking you to click on a certain link so that you can get your check in quicker. Those are all designed to take advantage of those that are unwilling and not very smart in this domain.
Wow. When I was earlier today, I was talking to a few people, you know, telling them that you were going to be on, and I used that term cyber hygiene, and they were like, "What the hell is that? Are you going to show us how to clean our keyboard or something?" I said, "No, it's going to be, you know, on what you can do to stay as clean as possible with your cyber footprint, right? I mean, that kind of what definition would you put? Well, two questions. What's your personal definition of cyber hygiene, or is there one in general? And what does it mean to be a hard target? What does that mean for the rest of our audience?
Yeah, you know, you think of some of the combat patrols that we did, Iraq, Afghanistan, whatever the case may be, and you made yourself a hard target. You were well trained. You can tell that platoon, that squad had their stuff together, and it make the adversary look elsewhere. That's what you want to do in cyber. So I use the term cyber hygiene. I don't think that I created that term. I'm certain that I picked it up somewhere. But making sure you're doing the operating in this domain intelligently is what I would say. And like I said, it's the basics and the fundamentals that'll make you a hard target. Making sure you have hard passwords. If it's too hard to get in, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. They're going to go elsewhere, right? Yeah. And you know, unless you have significant national security backgrounds or would be involved in special programs or something where a nation state would be trying to get after you. For the most part, dialogues like this, where you know you have to have a password to get in, that's going to be good enough to prevent an adversary for taking advantage of us. You know, but on the DoD side, you know, many people are now teleworking, and that increases our platform and our, you know, the attack vector for adversaries to get in. And so we're being smart about how we send people home, how we telework, making sure that we're, again, using two-factor authentication, all those little things that we can do collectively to just make ourselves a hard target. But it's you know, it's almost like the secret to success. What's the secret? Hard work. The secret to good cyber hygiene is the basics and fundamentals.
Hey, Scott, so since we've been talking about this, you know, we've got this current crisis going on with, you know, COVID-19 and everything. And certainly readiness is the key for our force and everything. When we talk about cyber as a weapon, as you have talked and Ron has kind of laid out, when we talk about competition short of conflict and in a domain that we have to look at as a warfighting domain, where do you see cyber as we continue to move forward? And certainly at times where our eye may be off of the ball a little bit because we're dealing with a virus like we're dealing now. Where do you see it going?
Just rewind back to 2018 and what the Russians did in the disinformation campaign, where they were putting false social media accounts together, and they were looking at issues that were divisive. One side, just pick an example, maybe gun rights or whatever, and you'd have social media accounts that were pro and social media accounts that were against. Well, the fact of the matter is they weren't U.S. debates. They were Russians hosting those arguments in many cases in the United States on our social media platforms. And so you fast forward to today, and prior to COVID-19, one of the concerns was what is election security look like in 2020? What I can tell you is, we don't have the opportunity at NSA and Cyber Command for the most part to telework because of the systems we work on. And so we're continuing to stay ready. We're continuing to focus on national security to be able to advise the president, the SecDef, the chairman, and all those key combatant command leaders and other elected officials. But today, it's more of the disinformation campaign that both China and Russia are using against COVID, in light of COVID-19. And I pulled up some information, that I've seen lately, just on the web here, all in class. And it's astonishing how much China is trying to divert blame, trying to really keep a close hold on the fact that they have any cases or a large amount of cases at all. And it's really harmful to us trying to figure out how do we get ahead of this? How do we prevent this? And where did it even come from? And just yesterday, I heard the chairman discuss this as someone asked him a question of, hey, did this come in from a Chinese laboratory? And his answer was pretty clear that, we don't have all of the intelligence yet to point that way, but we're looking into that because God forbid that this was created. That's going to create a whole different conversation, as I'm sure you're aware.
Yeah, a biological weapon that could be used, and probably mimicked by others out there that are not only willing to do us harm, but our partners and allies as well.
And right now, we don't know that. Right now, we don't know for sure how it was created, but I'm fairly confident in the intelligence community, and we will find out.
Yeah. Since we're talking about China, one of the big things out there, especially with kids and downloading different apps, right? And a lot of parents are concerned with their kids with TikTok, stuff like that. It's owned by China or whatever, whoever owns that and their information. What if anything could be done to protect, or what are your thoughts on that? And I think you had mentioned coined a term of being kind of a smart consumer with that. So what would you suggest or advise us as the American public on these apps? Should we be afraid of them? What are you thinking?
Fear, I don't know is necessary, but being smart. In 2017, China's national intelligence law said that any citizens or organizations are required to turn over their data whenever the Chinese government requests it, if they're operating in China. So not to specifically target TikTok, but that would be one of them. Same with Huawei, which is why, countries like the United States, Japan, Australia, and others have said, we don't want Huawei operating their 5G networks in our areas. And so what we have to realize is if we are going to use those applications and Chinese goods and that sort of thing, you are in essence giving over your private data to the Chinese government if they so demand. And so that is what we have to be mindful of. And that's why I say, if you don't need these applications, delete them. Often what I'll tell people is, instead of using an app on your phone, go to the website, log in, do what you have to do, and then get off. That way you don't have that data being delivered while your phone is at rest. And so it's not so much that TikTok or Huawei or 5G or any of those things by themselves are bad things. The technology is not necessarily what's bad. It's the fact that the Chinese National Intelligence Law of 2017 requires companies that are operating in China to turn over their data whenever they ask for it. That's the key. Whereas in the United States, obviously, you would need a court order, and you would need to be specific about things you were trying to get to protect American citizens and that sort of thing. And so that's the key difference here.
Gotcha. And we got to, oh, go ahead, John.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to ask Scott. Scott, in your position, being a combatant command senior enlisted leader, you touch all the services, man. You've got soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen. You've got DOD and service civilians. You deal with family members and everything, and certainly you do a lot with veterans. So give us the pulse of the force from your foxhole, man. How are the troops doing through this crisis and their ability to stay focused? And how are the families doing out there? Give the audience your take on how our troops are doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I actually called a family spouse yesterday. I called her as her husband is in Afghanistan, and I wanted to make sure her and her 3 kids are doing okay. And what I've tried to do is, as best I can, for key individuals that are deployed or are forward, making sure that I'm staying in touch with them, staying in touch with their spouses. And then I weekly host a VTC with all of my enterprise SELs, whether they're in Australia, Korea, or Colorado, it doesn't matter, to keep an eye on them and to see how things are doing so that I can gain the atmospherics and understand what's going on. What I'll tell you is, while they're on mission, they're tremendously motivated. The fact of the matter is we're going to allow you to get after the hardest targets in the world. So that's awesome. We do have some things that I'm concerned about. And this is something that, you know, if you and I were to be discussing it a year ago, it's kind of the same thing, and that's mental health. And so I've really tried to emphasize everyone staying socially connected, which is why I do that weekly VTC with them all, while observing the CDC guidelines of staying physically distanced and that sort of thing. But the pulse of the force, I think, for the most part, really motivated, love what they do. Myself and the boss, we make sure that we get out and talk to them, whether that's via VTC or getting out and around, so that we can hear their fears. Because I think it's important that we stay positive while we acknowledge that there are some fears and some issues and challenges. And so we got to be able to have those conversations. And then when I have things that I'm unable to solve or fix, I'm gonna discuss that with either the service SEAs or the SEAC, 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗍 myself, and say, here's some issues or challenges that we face. But right now, you know, whether it's the fact that a lot of the child care facilities are closed, or the longer lines in the commissaries, by and large, I haven't had anyone say to me, hey, this is too much, I'm not able to handle anything. And I think I have a really good pulse of my force. So I'm pretty optimistic of where we are right now. And again, those are my folks. I couldn't be speaking for.
No, I got you, brother.
That sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So just I had actually a question that just popped up. It's from Wes King. He says, what do you think of password managers such as the one built into your Google account or apps like LastPass, specifically the security of using them versus remembering your passwords yourself?
Well, in theory, if you were going to use something that created a password for you, there's an algorithm that created that. And in some ways, if you were an administrator or you have admin rights, in theory, you may be able to do some things that would compromise those passwords. I know that no one can hack into my head, at least today. And so I trust myself to create hard and challenging passwords. You could do something as simple as, the first day I took my son to a ball game was such and such. And then you mix it up with capital letters and so on and so forth. There's no way anyone's going to hack into that. It's virtually impossible with the current technology that we have. And so I'm not telling you that I know that those things are compromised, because I don't, but I trust myself over someone else or some other software creating a password for me.
Yeah, one of the things that I use when, and I've been doing this since for 20 years now, I guess. But when I was in Rancho Town, we had to, we were setting up the 𝗫𝗵𝐵 and all that good stuff, but we had to change our passwords every so often. And I'd get pissed because I'm like, damn, I can't remember it. So what I ended up coming up with was this algorithm that only I knew. And then I would, for every account that I would have to get into, I would change a few letters, right, of maybe, the first two of what I'm getting into. So I knew what the first piece was and whatever platform it was. Okay, this is what I'm popping into. And a buddy of mine over the weekend, he asked me, he says, give me one of your passwords. I'm like, I don't know. But when he put it in there, he put it into this website, and it showed how long it would take a computer to crack that password. And I think mine was at like 200 million years or something like that, crazy, but which made me feel comfortable. But, you said a lot of people, especially with these new quantum computers and stuff like that, they've got to get smarter with it. And with that, and the other piece was, what do you think about sharing your bios with these applications? Face recognition and stuff like that.
Well, Ron, you touched on something. So quantum computing isn't fully realized yet, but once that does exist, in theory, most of the cryptography and the things that we are using to protect our passwords at home are going to be null and void. And so we're going to have to look at how we get there. But that's at least the future of a few years, but probably longer than that. But to your point of things that you do on social media, I know there's people that enjoy some of the games and putting things out there, but equally as important as your password is also, what are those questions? Because usually there's 4 or 5 questions if you forgot your passwords that you have to answer. More often than not, it's things that people put on social media. Hey, my favorite color is this, my first car was that, and this is the city I live in. Well, guess what? Those are the questions that allow me to now gain access to your computer. And so you don't need to have those really strong Google password crackers or anything like that when people are putting that stuff out there for you. And that's what I get back to again, being smart with your cyber hygiene. Quite frankly, I don't think Jon Troxell gives a shit what my favorite color is. And so I just don't put that stuff out there. There's certain things that I'm going to protect and that only I need to know or my wife needs to know. And that's it.
Yeah. That's
Hey,
awesome.
Ron, what do you say we have a little fun with this hardened Marine here?
I would love to have some fun with this hardened Marine.
I'm losing access. My internet is dying.
Hey, so we're going to rapid fire some questions at you here. Scott, you ready?
I'm ready, sir. Let's do it.
I know you're this guy that's, in grad school right now. You've done all this stuff at Harvard and everything. You are one of the smartest guys I've ever met, but we're going to get into the inner Scott Stalker here. All right.
Jesus.
So Ron, if you don't mind, I think I'll ask him a question, then I'll run it over to you to ask, and then we'll go back and forth for about 3 or 4 questions.
I
Sound
love
good?
it. We're good.
All right, Scott, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So I mentioned earlier to, my Ranger buddy Ron about, me admitting that I binge watched Tiger King. So my question to you, hypothetical question. If you had to do a sleepover, would you prefer to do that sleepover with Joe Exotic or Carol Baskin?
I'd have to take, even though I think the murder or the death or the missing piece of her husband is a suspect, I'd have to go with Carol because I am not cuddling with that guy. That guy is a freak. And, I would be adamant about social distancing with that guy. So no sleepover with Joe Exotic, that's for sure.
Okay.
That is horrible, man. That's a nightmare scenario.
I don't want you to get fed to tigers either, brother.
Yeah. Would you rather
Okay,
get fed to tigers or snuggle with Joe Exotic? Ooh.
All right. Here we go. What is your favorite taco and why?
Oh, quite frankly, my wife's, she makes these great ones up here. It's nothing special, just a classic taco with regular sauce on there. But I could probably eat tacos almost every day. If it's made right and has a good amount of sour cream in there with the hard shell, forget it. That's all I need. I'm not very picky.
With the hard shell, like the Taco Bell tacos, is that your classic taco?
Hey, I'm from New Hampshire. That's classic for me.
in where I'm from in SoCal, we call those chingaderas.
Yeah.
little things, not
Right.
not tacos, right?
Yeah. No, you get me, my wife makes some good tacos and any day that, that's always a treat knowing that I'm coming home to that. That's for sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
All right, Scott. So, all right. Tell me, you're this big, power lifter guy, when I first met you, even though you Marines got to run 3 miles on your PFT and you got to do all this cardio stuff and CFT, but you've always been a muscle car, big engine, with big muscles and everything, lifting a lot of stuff.
Hey, I got my
But
run
you
in
had a
today.
big gas tank too. All right. Huh?
I got my run in today.
Okay, good for you. But let's say you're a professional wrestler. What is going to be your ring name and what will be your finishing move?
Oh my goodness. My ring name. I have to come back to that one, but I've always, I'm owning that whole Master Guns piece. My finishing move, I like Undertaker's tombstone, because basically once you do that, the guy is dead, and you've ended his will to live. So I think it would be the Undertaker's tombstone. I have to come back to you on the name though, because I want something with a little bit of flair.
It couldn't be like the Night Stalker or I mean, something
That's
along
too
those
easy
lines.
though. That's too easy, right? I'd have to think
I
about it.
mean, now if you were a pro wrestler, you wouldn't wear tights, would you?
No. I'm not into the tights.
Plastic
I don't think
boots or
anyone in the
anything
world
like
wants to see me in tights.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some pretty translucent colored legs. I don't think you need to see that on TV.
So, the Ranger in me just has been, it's just bursting out of me to ask this next question, which I think a lot of our audience would like to know as well. Is there's rumor that Marines get their own special MREs. In there, how many crayons are in there, and why do y'all like them so much?
So I'll break a trade secret. The rumors are true. Marines get special MREs with 6 crayons. But here's the deal. And the reason why is, and you got to try this now, they make for a hell of a late night COVID-19 snack. So you put down some crayons in the evening when you're in, secured in your house. They're excellent. They're really good, So yeah, I don't know where the hell that rumor started. I don't know where that came from. But it's, it's all in good fun, right?
Oh, it is. Of course
Yeah.
it is. When was it that you first heard your first crayon joke?
Oh, it's been years. It's been years. At least a decade now, I think.
Was it before you went into the Marine Corps?
Well, I've been in 27 years now, so I don't remember the jokes then, and I don't remember, because I was with 7th Marines as we entered Iraq in '03, and I don't remember them then, which was odd because that's all we ate was MREs for about 7 months. But shortly thereafter, yeah, I think it became a social media meme, and then it exploded like everything does.
Yeah.
All right, Scott. No, for the sake of argument, open source information, we got, somewhat less than 200,000 active duty Marines. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we rank ordered all, 190,000 of them in the ass kicking department, who would be number 1 in the ass kicking department out of the entire United States Marine Corps? And where would Scott Stalker rank out of that, 200K?
Well, there's a couple things I'm good at. One, and picking up heavy things and speaking. And so what I will tell you is confidence is up there as well. So certainly number 1, I was a martial arts instructor. I'm not at Colton Smith's level, but I was, kicking ass for a few years there. So whether true or not, this could be fake news, but I would say without question, I'm the lead guy throughout the entire.
Wait a minute now. So that means that you can take the current Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, Troy Black. You can kick his ass.
Yeah, and I love Troy. I love Troy to death. He's
other
awesome.
heavy pipe hitters like, Bill Thresher, Brian Zickafoose, Paul McKenna, all these heavy pipe hit Marines, you can kick their asses.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're actually shaking in their boots if they even heard about this, if they're watching.
All right,
Yeah.
I got you, bro. That's what I like. Self-confidence, man.
Got to be confident. Got to be confident.
And
Whether it's true or not, I'm going to give it my all.
Though with McKenna, McKenna, it would probably be a fight to the death. So you probably have to dumb that down to a chess match or something, so you could have the competitive advantage, man.
I think you start worrying about Paul McKenna when he takes his glasses off, he puts them to the side, and then now it's on. Now it's on.
I gotta.
All right, the last question I got for you, brother. You're coming over to my house. on any given day, you're coming to my house. What are 3 things you can count that we're going to do when you come over to my house?
I would say without question, we're going to cook out. We're going to drink Miller Lite, whether you like it or not. Well, Miller Lite's going to be there. And certainly ROE rule number 1 is you are going to sing karaoke. You know,
Hey,
whether I liked it or not, whether your neighbors wanted to hear it or not, I had to sing there many a night.
What about some PT, some carrying heavy shit or something?
Oh yeah, that was always fun. I actually genuinely miss that. That would be something that, God, I'd pay to do right now, is to get that group of senior enlisted out there, picking up heavy stuff, things that, no matter how good how much in shape you are, at the end of the day, you're going to need a partner to help out because you are going to get smoked. And that was always something that I look forward to.
Well, I got to hear about this. What's all this picking up heavy shit at John's house? I got to be warned now.
Well, he would have all sorts. I mean, when we were done, we would have cuts and bruises on ourselves, not because we beat the shit out of each other, but because you'd be carrying an Atlas stone, a couple 100 yards, and heavy bags and hammers and all sorts of things. And so we've done several different sessions, but that last one we did is when we had to carry a lot of heavy stuff, to include, I had to carry probably 2 of the biggest senior enlisted leaders on the planet. And on the leaders, and we had to carry them around his housing complex, which was, had to have been at least a half a mile, I think, if not a little bit more. At least it felt like it at the time. So,
Ron, we've had this discussion before, trying to get after, stuff, doing fitness stuff that mimics movements that you would do in combat and everything.
Right. Yeah.
As we, when I was the SEAC, we focused on getting after the readiness, lethality, and deployability numbers, because we had some numbers that weren't too good with people that couldn't deploy to do their job. So I thought, what better way to show what right looks like than getting all of the senior enlisted in the Department of Defense at 5 o'clock in the morning and getting out here carrying heavy rocks, tires, logs, litters, you name it, and just beating the shit out of ourselves. So let's see if I get this right. So, Ron, when you come over to the house, we're gonna carry some heavy shit.
Yep.
You got to turn this on to your tacos, man. All right.
100%.
Okay. Then we got to drink some beer. All right.
Got that. Yep.
And then we got to karaoke, and nobody goes home until Scott Stalker sings.
And then they run because their eardrums are bleeding.
The fireball will take care of that if they kind of muffles it somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
The thing on the PT, what I really liked is it was a team building. It was never about who could lift the most or run the fastest.
Absolutely.
The bottom line is you've got to lead by that example. And we were setting example. I mean, I was probably, there was a couple guys that might have been younger for me, but for the most part, everyone was 45 and above. And we were still getting out there, kicking our own butts, because that's the standard and we expect it of our folks. And so we're going to maintain the same level of fitness.
Well, I got a question for you, Scott. And what was the first time when obviously you know John for a while, but what was the first moment when you were working with John or heard from him, where you said, you know what, this guy's it. This guy is someone that I can follow? Because I think across our career we can always come up with that one moment where it was like, you know what, this is the moment where I'll follow this guy to hell and back. What was that moment for you, for John?
Well, so that's very easy for me, because as you move up the ranks, there's usually a couple of tracks that you'll see people follow. And there's certainly what we call the senior enlisted leader that can focus on haircut regulations and cigarette butts on the ground and those types of things that I think a good corporal can handle. But when I listen to John Troxell, while he understands the service standards and uniform regs and all those other things, he's operationally savvy. And I mean this sincerely. This is, he's obviously not going to get me promoted now. But I thought of him as an intelligence expert, because he could walk through Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, Turkey, Israel, any of the global challenges in all of the 5 warfighting domains, and to include nuclear and information and those types of things. And he was able to do that fairly easy. Someone like me that lives in that world, I don't have to prep as much as others may have to because I'm living that every single day. And I was able to share stuff with John as I would see things that were sensitive. But it was really amazing to me to see a senior enlisted leader who had to have a, focus on the entire globe, focus on all of the things that impact the joint service, and also the joint staff. But he knew, if I said, hey, are you tracking this? Yeah, I know all about it. And when he would talk to my folks, whether it was at DIA, NSA, Cybercom, or any of the meetings that he were hosting, I knew quickly that, hey, this guy knows what the hell he's talking about. And usually within 5 to 10 seconds, I can tell quickly if a senior enlisted leader knows what they're talking about or not, because they're going to recite the same type of things that they're hearing all the time, or do they have original thought? And John Troxel always had original thought.
Awesome. John, same question for you.
The check payable to Stalker.
Hey, John, same question for you. At what point was it when you saw Scott and you said, you know what, this guy is definitely worth his weight. And knowing you as I do, you don't just invite anybody over to the house for some beers and into your domain. At what point was it for you where you said, you know what, this guy's going somewhere?
Yeah. So, I think Scott hit it on the head. So, when we all, as enlisted leaders, when we start at the tactical level, we are focused on the health, welfare, morale, training, and readiness of the troops at the tactical level. And those kind of tasks grow at the operational level. And at the strategic level, you have to be able to advise a 4-star general, or in my case, it was the chairman and the Secretary of Defense, and then the National Security Council, the administration. You have to be able to talk to Congress. Scott has to do the same thing at his level. And at that level, your conversations can't be about, are there cigarette butts out in the grass of the Pentagon? Don't get me wrong, discipline and standards are important. And as you know, Ron, they are absolutely critical for the functioning of tactical level organizations, especially in combat or in deployment. But as a strategic enlisted leader, you've got to bring something to the table that the senior general officers and flag officers and senior defense officials and administration officials can use based on the health, lethality, readiness, and pulse of the force. And so when I met Scott, he was working in my intelligence shop on the Joint Staff when I first took over. He came to my induction when I got sworn in. He came to my ceremony, this big hulking Marine. I didn't even know who he was. He said, yeah, I'll work with you. And of course, I'm shaking hands with about 1,000 people that day. And then I saw him in the Pentagon and we just hit it off. And then, it was amazing to me because in the Marine Corps, they have 2 different enlisted tracks. You either go the first sergeant and sergeant major route after you become a gunnery sergeant, or you go to the master sergeant, master gunnery sergeant route, meaning a first sergeant and a sergeant major are generally green tab kind of leaders as we know it, in leadership roles, while master sergeants and master gunnery sergeants are in staff roles. Well, interesting enough, the incoming Defense Intelligence Agency commander or director, Scott, the sergeant major of the Marine Corps at the time, Ron Green, great friend of both of ours, put him on that slate and he got selected for that job. Now, some thought that was an anomaly that a master gunnery sergeant would get selected for that job as a senior enlisted leader of a combat support agency. But then he shined there. I mean, he was just excelling along with the combatant command and service senior enlisted. And then when Admiral Rogers, senior enlisted leader at U.S. Cyber Command NSA, was leaving and retiring, the Marine Corps put Scott on that slate and Admiral Rogers selected him. And so he's made that leap twice now and kind of broken down that barrier that in order to be a leader in the Marine Corps, you have to be a sergeant major. And I've just been impressed for the same reasons. Not only does he understand people and the men and women and their families and everything, but he can operate effectively and transcend the tactical, operational, strategic chessboards. And when we're advising You know, at the end, I'm advising the chairman and the SecDef. He's advising his commander, as well as the SecDef and the director of national intelligence and others. Our ability to communicate on all three of those chessboards made important. And plus, for being a Marine, he's actually a pretty nice guy, you know, and a pretty good guy to hang out with. His family is beautiful. You know, his two beautiful daughters, his lovely wife, who is just a great friend of Sandra and ours. So when you have all of that combined, you just kind of attract to each other, not only as colleagues and as friends. And that's what happened to us.
That's awesome.
Ryan, you think we ought to get some questions in, brother? See what the audience wants to pick
Yeah.
about?
Well, you might get some doozies, Scott. I told everybody it was they could ask you anywhere, anything from security to aliens to cybersecurity. So we're gonna see what we got here. Let's see. Ed Sullivan says, I got a question for both John and
We have a really great shoe. Is that what Ed Sullivan said?
I got a question for both John and Master Gunny Stalker. What were you guys like when you were privates? Did you get drunk every weekend like I did?
Go ahead, Scott. You're the guest. I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I actually, as a private, came in dead last in my intel class because school
All
growing
right.
up is
Way to go, Stalker.
that's something you don't put in your bio, right? But what was interesting is I grew up where academics were really easy, so I didn't put much effort into it as a private, and I realized quickly that I'm going to make you know, a great 4-year private if I continued along those ways. So when I checked into my first unit, I had a good conversation with my NCO, Sergeant Bob Howard, who today I still keep in touch with, and he gave me some great advice on how to change, how to start putting in the work and getting better. And it was amazing how putting in the hours, putting in the work, and improving led to a lot of luck and led to opportunities. And so, yeah, I was initially a knucklehead as well. I wasn't drinking a lot. I probably have a few more beers, you know, as a mid-level NCO than I did then. But I wasn't focused as I should have been until I had my NCO who grabbed me by the collar and said, "Hey, smarten up, or you're going to do 4 and out."
Now, hold on. I want to know what Ron O'Farrell was like as a private. Okay.
Oh, man.
Ranger Ron O'Farrell. I know what you are like now, man. You're my Ranger buddy. And, you know, we go and karaoke together before, you know, the stay-at-home stuff happened. And we did a lot of drinking and everything. But what were you like as a private, man?
Oh, man. You know, it's funny. A meme came out the other day and someone said, "Ron, I bet this was you." And what it said was it had Shaq with this like look like this, and it said you can't smoke a rock, Sergeant. And that was me. I was that punk right off the block, Southern California there in East Riverside, and I thought that getting 2 battalion was tough enough, and then when I got there, I needed some more you know, clearing off of my shoulders there. So they my NCO said, he says I can't smoke it, but I can sure as heat that motherfucker up. So he sure did. Grabbed my rucksack, grabbed my 2-quart, and hit it. But yeah, I was a knucklehead private. Did all the fun stuff. But in those days, what I think what they would call character building now, you know, was a lot of physical pain, but a lot of good times. I had a lot of good times, and unfortunately, Ed, I was that guy that was probably getting hammered a little too much on the weekends. But on Monday morning, you know, 6 a.m. in formation was running it all out and you know, keeping up the standard like we should have been. So that was me.
All right, so let me do this, okay? None of us are going to admit by voice that we've done any of this. So I'm going to ask a quick question of both of my brothers here. And if you've done it before, I want you to just raise your right hand, okay? Have you ever drank so late that you just put your PT uniform on, went to sleep so you could sleep a little bit longer and get up right before PT formation?
Oh, who hasn't?
Have you ever been drunk in a PT formation? Have you ever had a beer during duty hours?
No, can't say that.
Ah, there you go.
Marines are just polished, aren't you, man? Hey, speaking of that, Ron and I are over here, we're veterans. We're trying to keep our grooming standards and up and everything, and you Marines are all about your hair, man, having slick haircut. So where are you getting your haircut at, Stalker?
It's funny because about a month ago, I went over, I'm right near Andrews Air Force Base, and I went to go get my haircut. I do it weekly. And as I was walking in, I finished the commissary, I walked over, and it was closed. And I had a moment of panic because there's no way in hell I'm putting on my Marine Corps uniform and having long hair. It's just not happening. I would pull it out first. So I went on YouTube and found out how to shave my own head. I got a barber kit, and once a week now I cut my own, and actually I do a pretty good job. So, all of this pandemonium going on, I'm probably going to now save myself some cash by not needing to go to the barber anymore.
There you have it.
I couldn't do that.
Go to YouTube and learn how to cut your own hair.
Right.
Learn anything on YouTube. Yeah.
Let's see, I got one from the audience here. Robert Couture says, can y'all talk about the importance of not giving into rumors and misinformation, disinformation, even as veterans who moved on to civilian life? It's kind of a vague question there, but I'm just going to answer it like this: is the disinformation and misinformation. As a veteran and seeing a lot of stuff with transition, and I work obviously a great deal with active duty and their transition planning. Is I think I heard General 𝗲𝗍 Secretary Mattis at the time, where he said something that he does not enlist to the fact that veterans are broken, right? That we're some sort of damaged goods. And I think that is probably some of the biggest misinformation that's out there, is that we are. Granted, when, there's been a lot of time that it took for the system and for people to kind of catch on and say, hey, and address the problems. But I feel that the problems that have been addressed, where we're at now, is leaps and bounds beyond where we were before. So the biggest thing is to say that, hey, you're going to be screwed up as when you get out, or you're again some sort of damaged goods. Because I don't believe that for a second. I feel that I believe in the 6 P's. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance, and even with or without that, when you get out, there's a great community here that anyone can plug into, and there's zero really reason why anyone as a veteran should fail on the outside. In fact, I feel it's quite the opposite. So that's the biggest misinformation or disinformation that I could think of as a veteran there. So just to answer that one.
Ron, if I could, because,
go ahead, Scott.
Quite frankly, no one loves 𝗏𝗍𝗲 more than I do. The guy is a true professional. Well, maybe you, but he is a Boston fan too, so I got you there. But I think that is why I can't stress enough how important our public affairs are, our folks that are in strategic comms, and those of us that are in leadership positions need to focus on telling our narrative, telling our story, because you're never going to get ahead of a lot of these rumors and other things that are out there. But by us focusing on the truth, focusing on the facts and things that are going on, we can shed a little bit of light on that and allow the professionals like Rob and others to help us craft those stories in a meaningful way so that it relates to everyone, not just those in the service. So thanks for that question, Rob.
Yeah, so I'll just add on, and I did a video on Facebook, and I know, Scott, you do them all the time now, and I love them. But I was receiving text messages, people asking me or that were calling me saying, hey, we heard that, the Department of Homeland Security was going to activate the military to operate food banks. Well, first of all, the Department of Homeland Security does not have that authority to activate the military. They got the authority to activate the Coast Guard, but they don't have the authority to get after the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine. That lies within the President of the United States, the Secretary of Defense, and I heard all of this stuff, and we just gotta, if we understand the environment that we operate in cyberspace, and Scott, you discussed this, and there's still people out there that think that there's nobody on the internet that lies, but if you are, just suspiciously alert and you're just savvy on how you do business on social media, I think you'll be all right. You know, these fake Facebook pages and everything, you know, Scott and I, you know, you've been dealing with them for a few years. Sandra and I have been dealing with this for 12 years now. And we understand this is the environment we operate in. And whenever I hear somebody that, hey, you know, I had a fake one, you know, whatever, now I just, you know, every now and then it still pisses me off. But really, when somebody calls me up or texts me and says, hey, I think somebody's using your Facebook page, and I hate the terms hack. Nobody has hacked into my page and stolen anything out of my account or out of my Facebook page. They get the pictures from open source information, you know, which is easy to get when you're the 𝗙C or the cybercom guy or whatever, or they can go to the Veterans Lending Group page and pull Ron Farrell's picture off of that, and they can use that because it's open source, you know. So I'm not getting hacked, and it ain't ISIS generally that's doing it. I think you would agree, Scott. It's usually some criminal in some foreign country at an internet cafe using an IP address that can't be attributed back to themselves that are using this stuff. And in the end, they're creating these accounts to milk money out of unsuspecting people. And you mentioned widows and others like that. And so my advice is, and Rob Couture, Rowdy Rob, thanks for the question. We got to be suspiciously alert when we're dealing on social media and do the things that Scott, you talked about earlier.
Yeah. And got another one here from my Ranger buddy, Keith Bach. He says, who's in the Sergeant Major's Academy right now. He says, where's the best location to get information on cyber awareness? The best one-stop shop open source, something we can push to family members of soldiers, airmen, and Marines.
You know, I don't know that there's a single one-stop shop, but I think the Department of Homeland Security's 𝗙CIH website puts out an awful lot of those fundamental things that as American citizens we should be mindful of, and they put a lot of the threats that are out there. So I would tell you to look at their site. What we do at Cyber Command for the most part is provide, you know, whether that's intelligence or capacity or capability, we provide support to Homeland Security. So anything dealing with inside the United States is either the FBI or Homeland Security. And I would tell you to look at their websites. They have a fair amount of information there.
There we go. And then we've got, let's see, Keith 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏 says, I was told by someone within the FBI that vets with a PTSD diagnosis will not be accepted into security jobs within government. Is this true? I can tell you from my experiences that folks that I've seen, that, you know, I know quite a few folks, U.S. Marshals, and in the FBI as well, that you know, they have their disabilities from the military, right? From whatever, getting their VA, this, that, the third. And one of my Rangers buddies was a recruiter for U.S. Marshals, and he straight up said, he said, it's, you know, some of those things might come up, but that is your business. That is something that is your disability from XYZ, right? Now, you know, with the other questions that they have and layering to make sure that you're fit to fight or whatever for that particular role in that job, that might be a separate thing. But what's supposed to happen is it's, you know, no one's supposed to be looking at, you know, looking through your med records from the VA, from your disabilities and stuff like that, because the fact of the matter is that, you know, there's senior enlisted right now, there's officers right now that are serving on active duty that have been, you know, diagnosed with this, and it's something that happens, you know, more often than not. I think it probably there's different degrees and levels to that, right? Of course. Really, I haven't personally heard of anybody being denied. All I've heard is people saying that that's a fear or a concern. I also have one of my other best friends, I won't mention his name, but, you know, police officer who's also receiving 100% right now, which one of those things is PTSD and TBI related. Hasn't lost their job. They were concerned about it when they were at that 80 or 90%, but, you know, now they're doing, you know, other great things and went even deeper to do stuff. Firefighters as well. So, you know, my answer to that would be kind of maybe it just depends. You know, what have you heard, John, out there yourself?
Yeah, I think you're all over it, Ron. as we talked about on the last show, suffering from post-traumatic stress is meaning you have your normal reactions to abnormal circumstances, whether that was in combat, whether it was a significant life event back here or whatever it may be, it's normal. The way reactions to abnormal circumstances. And I think because that's also privileged information, that can't be used against somebody. Scott, you're the guy that's a member of DOD right now. What's your take on it?
Yeah, thank you. There's a lot of rumors and thoughts on what actually constitutes qualified or not qualified to get a clearance. But the bottom line is there is no cut and paste answer to this. You're not going to lose your clearance because you have a natural reaction to an irrational act and have post-traumatic stress. But if you are on certain types of medication that do not allow you to work or operate, that may be a case-by-case condition where you aren't able to work in the intel community. But for the most part, you've got to be someone of character, honest, don't have a criminal background, that types of thing. That's what we're looking for. Can we trust you with our nation's most treasured secrets? Not whether or not you had a condition, whether it's physical or mental. That has nothing to do with it. And we work really hard to look at bringing in individuals who have different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, whether it's injuries or combat injuries, wounded warriors, that sort of thing. We actually work really hard to find that talent. So it's, in many ways, it's the opposite of what you're being told, Ron.
Yeah, there we go. And I've got one more here, then we're getting pressed for time, but 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 asks, are you able to work when 100% P&T, or I think you're saying total and permanent? I'll answer that one. So two things with 100% disability that I think everybody needs to understand, and we're going to go over this a lot more in further detail next week when we have Billy Knight on. But I'll say this is that there's one is called individual employability, unemployability, or IU, right? So when you're individually unemployable, that means that no, you're not allowed to go get another job. You might be someone like my buddy that I talked to this morning, who's 90%, but is getting paid at 100%, or some people are 50% being paid at 100% because they're individually unemployable. No, you're not allowed to go get a job. When they do the follow-on interviews with you and they ask you like, oh, how's it going? If you say, oh yeah, I had this job, then that's when you see, that kind of come off. But the total and permanent, for example, I'm 90% TBI and a few other things. My disabilities are total and permanent. They're permanent, right? They're not going to go away. But I have a job. I collect the W-2 and all that. If I move to 100% disability, I'll still hold this job and everything. It's when the point where you're IU, individually unemployable, that's the difference. And we usually say that's the doesn't work well with others part, right? Then that's the part where you just kind of go do your thing, go ahead and collect that Social Security early. And if something changes, if your disposition changes later, and you feel better, you want to go, do another career, all they'll do is they'll take that IU off, and then you go back and do what you want to do. So that's the answer to that one. Yeah. Let's see here. We've got
one more, and then we
Yep.
cut it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we do one more here. Let's see. Because I applied for federal agencies when I ATS and was told by one of the agencies. Yeah, Keith, it's like you said, it's just gonna totally depend. Well, since nobody asked it, I'm gonna ask it. Scott, where are the damn aliens at? Where are we at? What barn are they at? What I mean, the world wants to know. More. I mean, I could do this. Hold on. Aliens. Like the History Channel guy, right?
I know who
you ready? Let's go to Area 51, man. Let's do that. Let's be a part of that raid.
Yeah,
Scott, let us know where they're
at.
at, man. We're ready to get after it, man.
It's funny you bring that up because I took a call when I was on the watch floor in the 90s out in Hawaii. I worked at the Joint Intel Center, and there was a conspiracy theorist who somehow got that watch number. And if I was on watch at 2 in the morning, I might entertain him for a minute or two and listen. But there are people that really believe, that know me, that believe that I have some insight into all of that. And hey, maybe I do, maybe I don't. Obviously, that's need to know information.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, brother, Scott, it's been great having you on the Ron and John show this week, man. And, we appreciate your insights, appreciate your leadership there, and appreciate you taking the time and spending it with two guys that haven't forgotten where they came from. And certainly will, like Ron and I say all the time, we're not on the varsity anymore, but we will be those guys when you get ready to get on a plane and your service members get on a plane, they'll have those signs saying, we support you and everything. So, brother, thanks for being on here today. Ron,
thank you guys. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks so much for being on. Really appreciate that and your insight and sharing with the audience. I know you're extremely busy, and taking and fielding these all these questions. And I love what that response was, is that you can ask me whatever question you want. I'm in control of the answers. So that last one, I know where they're at, but that's okay. We'll just leave that right there.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, gentlemen, I sincerely appreciate it. What an opportunity! I appreciate to be on here, and I appreciate what you guys continue to do for our service members. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
God bless you, brother.
Thank you. God bless. And then for everyone else,
hey, Ron, give us an idea. What's the show going to be like next week?
Yeah, absolutely. So next week we have it's going to be a good one, and I encourage everybody to share. Scott, I encourage you to come on as well and share it. We're going to have Billy Knight's going to be on. Spoke with him a little bit earlier this morning, and Billy Knight is the director for the VA for pre-discharge IDES for Washington State. He's going to be talking about how to file or how to file for your VA claims during this COVID, because they are actively doing that. He's going to go over a class on exactly how to do that, what that means, when to start filing. A lot of great information that really anybody that has served or that plans on getting out tomorrow to the next 20 years should listen to, because it's talking about how to build that profile for when you do get out, so you don't have to be that person like John and I were. Is like, well, man, this is hurting me now, but nobody remembers this exercise because I didn't report it, I didn't say anything about it. Then you got to get all these letters and from folks and stuff like that. So he's going to be going over some great information on what to prepare for now and for everyone's future. So it's going to be a great show, and we really look forward to having him on board as well.
So, hey, Ron, do you think Billy would be up for doing a virtual happy hour?
I think Billy would be up for doing a virtual happy hour, and I saw Keith there talking about this guitar that I got behind me. But we're gonna test some karaoke and then sign off with this one. I think you weren't expecting this.
Let's hear it, man.
Let's see what we got here. Let me see. You know this one.
Nice.
That's your cue, John.
Here we go. Hey, next week, man. Hey, so you got to tell Billy, you got to have a shot and a beer, and we'll see if we can get the karaoke machine on too. We
got to do it.
Here, man.
We got to do it. There was one more from our friend Gina 𝗏𝗆 that I got to ask for Scott.
Go ahead.
Gina 𝗏𝗆 is she works at the USO Northwest up here, and she wanted to know, what is your go-to karaoke song, Scott?
Oh my God. It's usually Pearl Jam's Even Flow, even though, to be honest with you, I still don't know all of the words.
Hey, dude, when in doubt, read the screen, brother.
Yeah, and I can do that. So I can eat crayons and read, so I'm okay.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks again, Scott.
Thanks for being on, Scott.
All right, Ron, thank you, my brother.
Thanks, brother. We'll see you.
Ladies and gentlemen, come back next week to the Ron and John Show, brought to you by Veterans Lending Group. Y'all have a great week. We'll see you for happy hour next week. Ron will be on the guitar. We'll get some karaoke. Get your best shot and your best beer ready. God bless everybody. Stay healthy.
Hydrated. All right, y'all. Have a great one.